Patrik Pietschmann is a German pianist and content creator who creates arrangements of film music. And some of his arrangements are pretty popular with millions of views, and he has almost 2 million subscribers. And his name has appeared quite a few times in my comments asking me to react to him. So in today's video, I'm going to do exactly that. So let's get into it. There's something about that repeated E in this piece that makes it sound really ominous. And when you repeat a note like that and move the chords around that note, that's something called a pedal note. And if it's higher up on the piano above the chords, it's called an upper pedal note. And if it's lower down below the chords, it's called a lower pedal note. And the term pedal note actually has nothing to do with the piano pedals. It actually comes from the organ, and on an organ, in your feet, you have another set of notes. And a lot of the time, they hold a note with their foot while changing the chords with their hands. And in music, it's a really good way of building tension because you've got a note that's been really persistent and it's rubbing against some of the chords. And then you can release that tension by finally moving that note that's been repeating. Kind of like that. I mean, this piece has a pedal note built into the middle of it with that E. But pedal notes are also just a really good tool you can throw in to build tension. This kind of reminds me of the Toccata and Fugue by Bach. It's got that same kind of alternating between a note that's moving and a note that's staying the same. But it's interesting that the note that is repeating, so that E, is now much quicker, so it's almost like it's intensifying that tension. I mean, that chord just sounds so special when it comes in. And I think the reason for that is because the note that is repeated is an E, and it's an F major 7 chord that comes in. The E is actually the weak note. That's the 7th of an F major 7th chord. So when that comes in, it makes the E sound really kind of weak and sensitive because you've had a note that's been so strong and persistent throughout all of that opening, and then you get one chord that just makes it sound really weak. The same kind of thing happens in the piece Elegy for the Arctic by Einaudi, because in that piece it's in F minor and you're getting all of these kind of dark, tense notes. It has this kind of motif that goes over the top of it while the chords change underneath. And it makes it sound really ominous. But then you get a major 7th chord, the same type of chord that we get in this piece, and it completely changes the character. I always think it's amazing how you can play an idea and then change the chord that's happening underneath it, and it almost completely changes the feel and the meaning of it. That's kind of weird. It's got like sextuplets in the left hand, so groups of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But because the right hand melody has to be played offbeat, it's kind of rubbing against that rhythm. It almost makes it sound kind of swung, and like I'm listening to some kind of 1920s American railroad horseback thing. Come to think of it, I think 1920s is probably a bit late. Probably more the 1800s. Yeah, that's very strange. So the rhythm kind of has flip-flopped back to 8s rather than 6s. The transition from going from groups of 6 to groups of 8 is quite difficult, especially when now he's playing some of the melody with his left hand going over the top. This is why you've got to practice your scales. It sounds a little bit like a Hanon exercise where you're moving the pattern up a note at a time. That is actually probably quite a fun way of practicing finger exercises like that. But this kind of thing is exactly why we practice finger exercises, so you can stay in control of your fingers when playing scale kind of things like this. I like that pattern that he's doing. It creates quite a full texture, and he's still got room to be able to move it up an octave each time, so that he can play it in lots of different places. I mean, I just love the sound of that F major 7 chord. It's just such a soft and sensitive chord. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Out of all of the Interstellar covers that I've seen, he's definitely messed around with the chords and the patterns the least. And I like that. I think it's often tempting to do too much when you're doing a piano arrangement of something, when really you can do a lot with what's already there. I mean, this is just such an iconic theme tune, isn't it? I mean, it's such an iconic tune, and it's kind of set the standard for what pirate music should be. The difficult thing about the way that Patrik is playing it is that he's playing chords for every single melody note in the right hand. It's kind of an awkward way to play it, but it does fill out the texture. There's the use of that pedal note again. You've got a D in the bass while the chords are changing over the top of it. It's almost like the song Eye of the Tiger that has that E that goes underneath it. That's funny because he's just played two of the patterns that I talked about in one of the videos that I did on chord patterns. The first pattern is this, where you play kind of like the two outer notes of the chord, the octave, and then the middle note of the chord, but an octave higher. So F, C, F, A. And then the second pattern was playing octaves and then jumping to the chords. It's kind of a perfect example of how to make chords sound more interesting in that left hand. I like those little runs of arpeggios that he did there. I can't tell whether he did it across two hands like that, or whether he did it in one hand, because his left hand didn't look like it was moving up to play those notes, but his right hand didn't look like it was moving either. I love how those chords are voiced. It sounds so clean. This is also why it's a good idea if you are arranging a piece of music to try and get the melody to stay at the top of whatever you're playing in the right hand. Because when you've got big chords like this, your ear will naturally follow that melody. Yeah, that time you definitely play those arpeggios just in the right hand. I mean, it's such a classic piece, and because it's not just a 4-chord song, any piano arrangement of it is going to sound really good. But once again, I like the fact that he hasn't done anything too crazy with it by changing the chords or doing some weird interlude or something. It sounds really nice and clean, and he plays it very well. Now, I actually did a video breaking down this piece of music not too long ago, and what makes it sound like a superhero piece of music. But one of the things I mentioned was that kind of rhythm that sounds kind of like military drums. And also that ascending note makes it sound kind of James Bondy. It's another absolute classic. The hard thing about playing it on the piano, though, is that you've got to try and keep your wrists really loose in order to play that rhythm. Once again, we have another pedal note in the left hand. These things are like buses. They all come at the same time. I've made a lot of videos reacting to pieces that never use pedal notes, and then suddenly we've got 3 pieces in a row that use them. I mean, the opening section for this piece is all about building tension and building enough tension so that when you get the main theme, it sounds really satisfying. Now we're all just waiting for this. And it is coming. Very clean arpeggios once again. They are a very useful thing to be able to throw in to pad out that texture, make it sound really kind of flowy and technical. Yeah, that was interesting. That felt a little bit safe for my taste. I think when you've gone through all of that beginning section, which is all about building tension using those pedal notes, I think when you finally get that main theme, which is supposed to be like a massive release of the tension, it would have been cool if he'd done something much bigger, but I suppose that's just my taste. Once again, it was another very reliable performance, and you're not in fear of him making a mistake. And it definitely does do what it says on the tin. You want a piano cover of a movie theme, then that's exactly what you're going to get. So I can definitely see why collectively these three pieces have more than 150 million views. If you want to see my reaction to Tony Ann, who is another YouTuber and pianist, then head on through, and I will see you there.